I'm gonna check. There we go. We are live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our September live event. I am Dr. Miriam Lynch, your executive director from Diversity in Aquatics, and I am joined by the one, the only, the great Brannon Johnson of BLJ Rowing. And we are here to talk about, on our first Friday of September, all things rowing. And I'm so excited to be connected with you, Brannon. Thank you so much for coming as a part of this, and happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It's always a good day, right? On a Friday. Weekend's here.
Absolutely. The weekend's here, and it's nothing better to kick off September and the beginning of our fiscal year with with some of our council chairs. For those that are new to Diversity in Aquatics is not only just diversity in people and areas, but also diversity in sport. And we all have a chance to give great inputs into the sport, where we've come from, to get us into these aquatic rounds and even more. And it's great to share those stories so that with each of you, so that you know that you're also a part of this community as well. And if you'd like to be a part of our First Fridays, please email us at info@diversityinaquatics.org. We love to hear from you. But today is rowing day. Today is about Brannon, BLJ Rowing, and more. And so let's start it off. Brannon, tell us a little bit about what got you into rowing.
Goodness, that's going back. I started rowing. I did an inner city camp. So the mayor at the time was Mayor Street, and he was an avid cyclist. And he would bike into, City Hall, and he just didn't see anybody Black out there on the Schuylkill. So he kind of challenged the city. He was the mayor, so he challenged the city to really do things differently. And there was the inner city learn row camp. So I started rowing at 14. And it was with Title IX passing, a lot of colleges picked up women's soccer and women's rowing. And so there was a really interesting sort of opportunity. And, I started training and started winning. And it opened up a lot of doors. Rowing is was absolutely a vehicle to a better life for me. And I think that is really what I work hard to make sure runs through our organization at every level, because, aquatics are important, sport is important, right? Community is important, and all of the work that we're doing, those three things run through everything. So, it's an absolute honor to be here. And I think the work that Diversity in Aquatics is doing and partnering with you guys has really been, a wonderful experience.
And thank you. It's been wonderful to learn from you. I know I got a chance to come out there and see some of what you do. And you are the boathouse without walls, without borders. And I think that's so awesome. And tell us about what made you, you talked about, you started as a rower. It was a call to action by the mayor. What made you start BLJ Rowing?
So, I think when we're talking about, just, the trajectory of, being Black and in a very, very elite white sport, I think when you're training for your junior national team, and I went to University of Texas on a full scholarship and then trained for the national team, and you're getting to start to travel and kind of see the world. And, I think I spent so much time where I didn't see enough, diversity, and I didn't see enough people that looked like me. So I really, I didn't even realize I was kind of, really storing all that information. So, I think I come from a line of entrepreneurs. My grandfather and my father are entrepreneurs. So I really, understood business is important and solving a problem is more important. So, I think I just really lived and breathed in this space so long that I knew I could provide a solution. And, it's working. It's working. I think the solution has evolved, and a boathouse without walls. The premise came because we just didn't have a boathouse. We didn't have a structure, and I think we kind of stumbled into our mission, which is not having walls, became the absolute sort of foundation of how we started and how we've continued to grow, because we are open. We don't have any doors, and we don't have it. Really removed a lot of boundaries just at the ground level. And I mean, it does present some other challenges. Keep it 100. But yeah, I think we really got to see how being on mission is so key to really doing good work in the community.
So let's talk about that. Like, that's the one thing I think people don't realize, is that on your way to entrepreneurship, even though you've had great success, and shoot, you were at one of the best rowing programs in the country, if not world, right? University of Texas. I mean, I follow them on Instagram and seeing, it's because of you, right? And then seeing the progress of what the team has done on this global stage, and taking that entrepreneurship into addressing a need within Philadelphia and even beyond. But we see all the success, but we don't see the iceberg underneath of that success. And you said what, those challenges and what your organization has been representing. Let's talk about some of those challenges. What are those things that you have been able to kind of break those barriers, and making a pathway for the community, and how you've been able to do that?
Well, first thing we always look to do is remove boundaries, right? The first step of that first sort of pillar is always removing boundaries, which is, is it transportation? Is it access? Is it opportunity? Is it look at the actual physical boundaries and make sure we're removing those for our youth as well as our adults, right? Is it money? Is it finance? The second thing is we create opportunities, right? So, our coaches are our interns, and then they become our coaches, and then they become, right? There's absolutely a synergy around exposure, and then access, and then education, and then really starting to master something, right? I think that rowing, particularly for Black and Brown communities, I think it's such a brutal sport. It really gives kids and adults of color a skill set that allows them to extract what they need out of a society that's not set up for them. So I think it's so important, from the discipline to the ruggedness of really what the demands on the body and the mental toughness. So I think, creating opportunities is absolutely that second pillar. We're always looking to do that. And then the third pillar is always community, right? It's promoting and fostering community, understanding, we are going to go farther if we go together. So it's understanding, working with recently incarcerated folks is just as important as working with, the youth is just as important as working with, single moms. Is just right. Like, the whole community can absolutely benefit. And I think fostering community is also really important to what we do. And I would even go as far as to say is the reason why we're successful.
That's huge. And being able to reach so many through utilizing the lens of rowing, to building that. And that's absolutely, I've seen that as a commonality, is that we're addressing bigger community efforts, but our lens is aquatics in order to get there. And so let's talk about a little bit how you're able to do that. Like, I know there's different ways to boating. One is the single scull, then you have like double scull, and then you have
you're good, Miriam. I like it.
And then you have the quad, and then the 8, right? Am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, like, if I was to begin, like, I'm interested in getting into rowing. Where do you start? Like, where do you start? Somebody that's like coming from and like, hey, I want to be a part of the program. I want my child to be a part of the program. How do you start with this?
So, the curriculum that we've developed like over the last, 15 years is, I'm so in my coaching to coach E ratio was always 3 to 1, right? We always are putting you out with a coach because I think it's incredibly intimate, and as far as I can understand what your fitness level is, what your skill level is, it's also wildly different for an adult than it is for a child. For the adults, we want them they have a lot of fear they've got to overcome. They need to learn to trust you. There's so much stuff. So like a larger class really detracts. Now for kids after that first lesson, we're definitely putting them out by themselves because their bodies are so young and they have so little fear. It actually works to their benefit, and having to row with a coach is to their detriment because we want their bodies are so responsive. They learn at the speed of light. It's amazing. But I think, it's always going to be in a quad. I love a quad because, the bow seat is the coaching seat. I always, joke with people. I spend just as much time in the bow seat as I do on the seat of my launch, because I think, it really is an excellent tool. And, you'll go out. I will say, for adults, you either love it or you hate it. Rowing is an absolutely, you either love it or you hate it. There's no middle ground. You're going to go out and you're going to be like, yep, this is for me. Or you're going to come back in and you're going to be like, you know what? I never need to do that again. And I think so that in and of itself, sort of takes a lot of the guesswork out of our hands as coaches and as, community leaders, as people that are present. So the people that come back really want to come back and they're really invested. And, the people that we give the opportunity to, it's great because they might have a friend or a grandson or a daughter, right? There's all of this, it's really very much a ripple effect. We had a woman who hated it and her grandson loves it. So, he's now in our youth program. So it's just, you never know. You absolutely never know. I also think that it's so important to just, in aquatic spaces, be constantly having conversations, right? I mean, it's from, there's dead bodies in the Schuylkill, or is it safe? I think I can swim, but I'm not sure. Am I going to fall out? What happens when I fall out, right? We're constantly in a space of educating, and especially, interestingly around COVID, and when COVID hit, because we didn't have walls, right? We were, out there, and because there was nowhere to go, that was the most people that have ever been at the Schuylkill, around the Schuylkill, in our spaces. And it was so interesting to kind of be a space for people to just be. And I'm really proud of our organization on how we handled it. We really became like very much a beacon for a lot of our community members who had nowhere else to go. And, the amount of swim lessons and how do I learn and what's next that came out of that was really quite phenomenal.
That's awesome. And I think we had so many learning lessons from COVID. Amplified, either help to promote activities in some spaces, or were also ways that that created further challenges in others. And to see the rowing was one of those that had created opportunities for people to create community, and to be able to say, I would have never tried this before. Let me try it now. And, even myself, like being able to go and see your program, and we were out there and everybody was like right there on the Schuylkill River, was amazing, because it was a way like we hadn't connected, but to create that connection, and almost the water too, to bring peace. Like, I feel a little bit better now being here.
Absolutely. I think I think one of the byproducts is definitely it's incredibly calming, right? You can feel it when you're rowing on the Schuylkill. You can shove off the dock and you won't realize you're in one of the largest cities in the country. It's that peaceful. It's that quiet. And, another interesting part for me is we don't have a lot of spaces where we have to unplug. When you are rowing, you have to put your phone in the locker. You have to put it away. You can't take it out on the water with you. And I'm seeing that for a lot of our people, it's the only time of day that they're not attached to their phones. And, I think, just the psychology around that is incredibly interesting.
A lot of people don't look at, what I've seen and what we're trying to do is the opportunities is once you learn how to swim, you don't have to just that you can be part of more than just a swim team. You can be a part of rowing too. You can be a part of water polo. You can be a part of all these things. So tell me more about what have been different ways. You talked about, hey, we're reaching mothers, we're reaching individuals who have been incarcerated. What have been other pathways and programs that you have had great success to creating that pipeline from learn to swim and getting people into boats?
I mean, honestly, it's everyone, right? We've seen people that, want to compete. So, they get in, they try it, they start training. People that there's people that really want to get in and be competitive. There's also people that just want to recreate and want to be in the space and want to be on the water. And both are absolutely a part of our organization. Now, we don't let them row together because that would be awful. But, I think it's really kind of fascinating to see, somebody that learn how to row to really getting in good enough to start competing. That's such a great, story. It's so cool to see. The other thing is also somebody just might have been terrified and stayed at it, and they can take a single out on their own and are able to navigate the river, and they know what bridge to go through. And, so there's just this really vast sort of space for opportunity. It's absolutely choose your own adventure. And, it's really great to see people out there doing that. People are, sport is the last kind of, I think, frontier, right? You can't drop your body off at the gym and pick it up. You can't put it online and get it right. Like fitness is kind of that last sort of, space where you can't outsource it. And so I think, wellness is important and health is important and fitness and all of these things kind of dovetail together. And we are working hard to be an organization where people can get all three. I can't hear you.
No.
Oh,
You can
hello?
hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. And look, the fireworks went off. But what I wanted to ask is that, we've had to think outside the box for this. And when it comes to in what ways do you see that, I know you're on a natural body of water. What are some things that you would consider call to actions? Being where your product and your business is on the water, that we can ask communities to be a part of the call to action to making our waterways safer. And we've talked about this, is that during COVID, it went up exponentially. People were utilizing natural bodies of water, with people taking advantage of them and the sports that come with it. What are some call to actions that, from your perspective, that are needed in this space to promote water safety in and around the water to make it even more accessible but safer at the same time?
I mean, for us, it was just, making sure our life vests were available, right? They're not locked up, they're not chained up. We can just grab one. Getting people to join basically the cleanup. I think, people respect spaces that they take care of. And I think that that's really important. Another thing that I'm working on is, getting, there needs to be at any docking station or anything, any access point to the water, there needs to be like an actual checklist. Like if you're in a kayak, do you have a paddle, right? There should be just some things that they can just read through and be like, oh, I don't have this thing. If you say no to any of these, you should not go out on the water. Do you have a cell phone? Right? I can't tell you how many people I'm just like, hey, do you have a cell phone? If something goes, like, can you call someone, right? So it's really interesting, the lack of knowledge that, we have just around how to use these spaces and use them safely.
To complement what you said is that a lot of cities, like for instance, Alexandria, where I live, what we've seen is for them to put safer practices in and around the water. They've also started to do the ring buoys around the areas, so that becomes where, hey, we're promoting water activity, but we're also promoting safety that you can see, that's tangibly in front of you, to make that more accessible. And they're also supporting and pouring into grants to have them for the rowing activities. And now we're starting to see events, like I think with the Olympics and the promotion of in the Seine River, there's more activities, like we have waterways right here in front of us. Let's now create events that are sponsored by the city in order to make them to show people how to utilize them. And I think that's too is part of the programs. And what you're saying is your program actually shows people how to use the riverway and also how to care for the riverway. And we're a part of not only just being a physical activity, not only being emotional activity, because being near and around the water is we know there's scientific facts about that being a benefit to us, but also showing environmental conservation and showing how to do that, safe practices and all the things that you talked about in, near, and around the water as well. And I think sometimes, this goes back to the challenge, is that's also been to show people that out of the box piece is that we're not just an aquatics program, we're community programs, and to utilize us as such, that we can just enhance the community offerings, not only by having, certain things in place, but also to make your community safer in those ways as well. So I've got a fun question. We went kind of deep on this part. So what has been give me one of your favorite races that you did as a rower, and walk us through, like, that you've done, because I know you've been to the highest of the high races. So give me one that was like your favorite one that you've done as a rower.
Wow, Miriam, I don't think I have one. Oh, I am such a So racing was very difficult for me. I'm very emotional, like high octane racer. So, I would like get physically every medal I won, I was physically ill before the race. Like that's how like amped up I will get. Um I have to say, I think one of my favorite moments around a regatta, which is Stokesbury Cup, it was a really big high school regatta. And it's like Stokesbury Cup and cities are like right near each other. And I had won cities and I won Stokes. But about 10 to 15 years later, I was, in a market in Philly. And I don't know, I think I had like a Stokesbury, so I had something on. And there was a lady behind me that was like, oh, she made some comment as to say like, like, do you know that regatta is happening right now? Like as to say like, I like to educate me, like, the shirt you are on, that regatta is happening right now. And I'm like, yeah, I know. She's like, my son's in it, my son's racing in it. And it was like and I'm not really, I really try to like, keep, I don't really talk much about my career. I don't really enjoy it, but I really enjoyed being like, yeah, I won that regatta. So I'm fully aware of when it happens and the time, like fully aware. And like, it was just so funny because she was just so taken aback that as to who I was. And then she's like, oh, okay. So like, what did you race in? You know what I mean? It's just like, so interesting, and it's just such a great lesson. And I always keep that memory in my pocket and keep it close because it's just like you never know who's in line in front of you in the grocery store. So that's probably. I have a couple of those moments, a couple of moments where it's just like I really believe in that, saying confidence is just having a stack of irrefutable proof that you are who you say you are. And I think, my racing wasn't an enjoyable sport, but what I will say is I always raced my best when I knew I had prepared. That was probably a long answer. Did you get it?
But I love it. I think it's the, as an athlete, those are moments that we enjoy. It's like just the ones that stick out in our head that just are great. It's almost like an affirming moment from the universe. It's like, oh man, I'm on the right path. We're doing these amazing things. Because sometimes it does feel lonely. Like, as you said, like, hey, there aren't, and I'm, to this day and what you've been able to do through rowing and creating access, there aren't many that look like us that are in the sports that we're in. And so moments like that help to continue fuel us through I don't know, Miriam.
I think
our journey.
I'm pretty sure everybody knows who you are. I think you don't. I don't think you have as much anonymity as I
do. Absolutely. So, what has been that you take your words to, that you've been at, that you were like, wow, this was an amazing experience on the coaching side?
So I'm going to have to say taking my youth to Waco, I think was, I think, when you're doing this work and when you're working with inner city kids and you get to really show them that rowing is literally a vehicle to a better life. It was the first time they had flown. It was so many firsts, rolled up into this experience that they got because of rowing and because they did the work. And, we took the fastest boys and the fastest girls, and just watching them kind of really lock in to try to get on that list, and the competitive culture that it created, but like really watching them get on a plane for the first time and be just fascinated with all of the things and getting on a different body of water and watching all of that, it was really eye-opening, and I have to say incredibly moving for me as a coach to just, I think it's so important when we talk and talk and talk as coaches, and there's so much, and I didn't have to say anything, right? It just, the experience, they really just ate it up. And it's one of my favorite memories. And and I will keep that with me for a long time.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I saw the trip, and that was one of, for me, like, also, like, as a coach, like, to be able to do the travel trips and see growth in our athletes in travel situations and create that atmosphere for them. And I saw what through your guys' Instagram, that experience, and wow, what a cool thing to do. Like, wow, we're about to represent our team in a whole different place. And I'm sure for you to go back to Waco, Texas, to go to Texas, right, to return there, that must be something special as well.
It was all of the feels, 1,000% all the feels, for sure.
Awesome. So how do people get involved with BLJ rowing? If I'm interested, how do I get involved? How do I continue your messaging that you're doing? If I'm watching this right now, what do you want people to know?
Honestly, always jump on the website, bljcommunityrowing.com. You can always donate. You can always email as well. I think what we saw a really interesting influx in people that were in Philly and thought, hey, this would be something fun to try. Absolutely. Our staff we're out on the water every day, all day. So if you happen to be just visiting the city and you want to do something iconic, absolutely reach out, send us an email. Our Instagram, please follow our social media. The team is getting really quite good at making that a lot more interactive. They're doing better than I did. I think the other thing is also just, look for how you can, talk us up, mention us to a friend, mention us to, partner, word of mouth. Even with the boom in social media, word of mouth is still how we get this done. And we are doing good things, and we're building this community, but we're doing it one stroke at a time, one person at a time, one day at a time.
Absolutely. So please, if you guys, we're going to put the links on both our YouTube and our Facebook, so you can get in touch with Brannon and be able to like, share, and follow, because that's the best way. What we've realized in all of this, and why we do what we're doing, is to highlight what is being done. And also, if you're interested, Brannon's been such a great wealth of information, connecting us to a big shout out to Unity Boat Club down in DC, and connecting us to other Asher Cooper, who has the infamous book, and more rower in the rowing community, is to know, one, that just the connections that she's been able to have. And so she knows she can point you with people all over the country, if not the world, to find somebody in your local area. But also, she's been so great and transparent on how do you get involved in it. And I just want to say a huge thank you to you, Brannon, and how we've been able to make this forward movement, to be able to connect. Not only like, hey, we've seen some things that, hey, rowing connects to swimming, and connecting those two groups with Dr. Beal Tafiq, and doing programs connect to that, as you mentioned earlier, and then being able to connect to even with our water safety festivals, right? To expose kids to understand that it doesn't just stop here. Like, learn to swim so you can do these amazing things that are going to build skills that are going to last you for like you said so eloquently, for the rest of your life, right? Becoming a leader, overcoming obstacles, doing things that are outside your comfort zone, because as adulting, we're doing things constantly outside of our comfort zone. And even more. So tell us, as we finish up our broadcast today, what is next for this year? So people know how to contact you, but what can people look forward to from you in this 2024-25 season?
So 2024-2025 season, you guys can look forward to an aquatic event that is not just rowing. We're looking to bring out all of the boats, from kayaks to canoes. Help me God, because I don't like dragon boating, but bringing everyone together in our space, just for like more of like a celebration. We'll throw, I think it's so important for us to kind of get to know each other so we can do something. So you definitely look for that for us. Look for some really fun things coming out over the winter. We kind of buckle down and move into our studio over the winter, but we are thinking about doing, some absolutely educational things. We have our trunk or treat coming up. So that's October 24th. It's just a fun way to kind of bring the kids, be in an aquatic space. We decorate our cars, and it's just a really fun kind of time. It's free. It's great for the community. So come out, and if you just want to just meet us, it's kind of like a great meet and greet for our community. So please look out for that. Come and join us for that. And look for some really fun learner rows. We put 175 people out on the water this season, and I think we're going to go for 200 next year. But we have some really fun learner rows events that are absolutely free. So always check our social media, because we definitely post those dates as often as we can. And then, yes, and look for a Stroke in the Right Direction, which is a partnership between Diversity in Aquatics and BLJ Community Run.
Back together again. Brannon came down and connected us with the Atlanta rowers, and we got a chance to connect with and the ergs, and have experienced not only just the ergs, but got to get in the big inflatable boats and learn rowing through our water safety festival. So, she's given us some great dates along the way to be connected. We'll be posting some of those events through our Diversity in Aquatics Instagram as well. So, if you're around in the Philly, Mid-Atlantic area, take the family for a weekend. Go out there to the Schuylkill River and be able to join Brannon. I know I murdered it. I'm so sorry. But join Brannon and BLJ rowing on these events, because it's easy doing this. She's got a great team. It'd be great for you to be able to meet each of them and what they're doing in the community. So all for today and being able to be part of this live broadcast with us. Please, if you are looking to join us for live broadcast or want to connect with Brannon and ask furthering questions about rowing, how to get involved with rowing, how can you get involved with the council, email us at info@diversityinaquatics.org. And then we will be back in October for our next Friday live, where we will talk some more with some more groups about aquatics and all things water safety. So anything last minute to say, Brannon, before we go off today?
No, thanks for having me. And I'm looking forward to hanging out with you guys in Atlanta for the festival.
All right, everybody. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.